Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're doing good and well. So in this week's revisiting of my favourite sci-fi TV episodes, I'm going back to Star Trek Voyager. As you can see on my screen besides me, there is Voyager. And this is the 6th episode of the 5th season, which was called Timeless. This was the 100th episode of the series as well, and I thought this was a really great episode to mark that occasion with too. And a couple of other things that are interesting about this episode is that it was a very Harry Kim focused episode, and with most of those, I didn't find them to be very memorable. And no disrespect to Garrett Wang, who I thought always portrayed Harry Kim very well. I thought this episode was, generally, or rather, generally, those sorts of episodes were less interesting, but this was definitely an exception. This was a really good Harry Kim focused episode where I thought he gave a good performance both as his present usual self, but also as his future self too. And the other thing I want to say, this being a show in its fifth season was really strong, I thought. You get a lot of Star Trek fans that do talk Voyager down quite a bit, and I've never fully understood that really. It's kind of this elitism, a little bit, I think. I will say I thought Voyager took a bit of time to get going for me. Like the first couple of seasons were very hit and miss, in my opinion. But by the third season, I thought it really gained a lot of momentum, and I think particularly the Borg storylines in Voyager were great, and the introduction of 7 and 9 for me gave the series a real focus and a lot more angles with which to explore characters and that sort of thing. So I actually thought Voyager got stronger kind of in a lot of its middle and later series, which is unusual for a series. Usually by fifth season, I find TV series tend to tire somewhat. But with Voyager, I actually found this was not the case so much. And this episode serves to demonstrate that somewhat. So what is the story of this episode? Why do I enjoy it so much? I'll dig into that a bit more now. So you have Kim and Chakotay in spacesuits discovering Voyager. It kind of seems to be trapped under ice, but what transpires is that all the crew are dead, and Kim and Chakotay are there visiting Voyager to try and change history. They tell the Doctor when they reactivate the Doctor, one of my favourite characters, that they're there to try and change history. What transpires later is actually it's because they're trying to correct a mistake of the past that resulted in Voyager crashing on that ice planet, being the reason why it's trapped under ice, under ice in the episode. And it's because Kim is desperate to correct a mistake which resulted in the deaths of all the crew. You understand, and you get the idea in the episode very much. It's a really good understated performance, I think, from Garrett Wang. He kind of get the sense that there's all that weight on his shoulders, the deaths of the crew behind him for the past 15 years when they're there to try and change what has happened. And there are a couple of nice little moments in the episode as well where 7 and 9 is drunk when they cut to a kind of scene where it's the present day Voyager and they're celebrating the discovery of this new technology. 7 and 9 is kind of drunk and going, we are as one, and yeah, it's just a nice moment, a bit of a light-hearted moment in the episode to kind of balance out a pretty dark episode otherwise, I think. So the other things I kind of want to say about this episode, so basically the reason that this mistake happens, that Kim made this mistake, is that on discovering this new technology, he was the one that kind of was trying to make the calculations for how Voyager would get through this slipstream, this wormhole, so as to take Voyager closer to home, which was their main mission. And for a lot of the series, it's kind of it's the kind of main story thread of Voyager is them trying to find their way home, essentially. And so Kim thinks he's got it sussed that they're going to send a shuttle out ahead of Voyager to help guide Voyager through this slipstream, this wormhole, to get them closer to home. And this is where it all goes wrong. And we see it's kind of going wrong, and then it cuts back to the future again, with future Kim and future Chakotay trying to correct the past. And we also find out that they're both fugitives, having stolen technology. I think it's this very specific technology that allows them to communicate with 7 of 9, so that they can, of course, correct this mistake and it's essentially erase 15 years of history. Now, this is where I think this episode creates an interesting question, and it's the sci-fi geeky sci-fi, it's the kind of the sci-fi, the deep sci-fi bit of this episode, if you like. Is that it asks the question, if you were responsible for the deaths of your, all the people you knew on the crew of a ship you were on, of course you would want to correct that if you had the chance to. But if it means erasing 15 years of history for everyone else to do that, you suddenly are going to ask the bigger question, which is the worst crime? And I think that's where this episode is poses a very good question, is, actually, what is morally the right thing to do here? You can totally understand Kim's drive in wanting to go back and save the lives of his crew and stop his own mistake in causing the loss of those lives. But at the same time, you're like, well, this does mean erasing 15 years of history for everyone else, right? To the point that he's at now in the future, so to speak. And I thought that was quite a fascinating aspect of the episode, and one of the reasons I like this episode is because it poses a question like that. Of course, time paradox stuff and all of this stuff is, again, quite a common sci-fi topic. I recognise that. But again, it's not so much that, as I've said in other episodes, it's the way it's done. It's the performances. It's the understatedness of. I think the episode's done in a very good way, and it has a really nice scene at the very end of it with Janeway. Sort of when you can see it clicking in Harry Kim's mind as to, what's happened, why Voyager has been saved. When spoiler, Voyager actually gets saved. It's because future Kim has communicated to 7 of 9, and Kim realizes that that's the reason his future self has essentially stopped this terrible mistake from happening, and obviously that dawns on Harry Kim, and he's like pretty shocked about it, as you would be if you discovered, I suppose, put yourself in his position. You make a terrible mistake, and you suddenly find out your future self has sent a message back or done something like a guardian angel to prevent that mistake from happening. It would be a weird moment, wouldn't it? You'd be a bit like, what the hell's going on, But it's just a really nice, sweet moment at the end of the episode when it's like the reveal when he realizes that his future self has essentially saved him from a massive disaster. And it's a cool episode. I really like it. I think Voyager, when it got it right, it was some really great episodes, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching it growing up, and enjoyed my revisits of the series as well. So what do you think of this episode? What do you think of Voyager? Do let me know in the comments, as always. Otherwise, till next time, I think I'm going to be doing a Doctor Who next time. So from me, take care, everybody. Have great evenings. Bye for now.